What is up, Ravens flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. Chance and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
Welcome in everyone to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin here with my co-host James Haskell, and in this episode, we're going to discuss who of the impending returns from injury, and most of these guys from IR, is going to be the most impactful for the Ravens on the field. Who makes the most difference of those expected to return either right after the bye or shortly after the bye? Before we get started, give us a subscribe, give us a like, hit the notification bell, and we will keep you up to date on all your Ravens news. But Jimbo,
it's really that simple. If you're not subscribed, if you're a real Ravens fan, you're going to subscribe, right?
That's it. You don't want to miss out. I mean, we'll keep you up to date and make sure you don't miss a thing of importance. But Jimmy, what is the current list of guys who are at least expected to return at some point in this season for the Ravens?
Yeah, so I wrote it down here on this cute little piece of paper we got from the hospital, the notepad I took from when our son was born, and I've been using this for the past month or so for our shows. And the list is quite extensive. We got some reinforcements on the way. Look, one of our former presidents says that each action has its opposite reaction. And what I'm trying to say is we've had a lot of guys on IR. Now that means that a lot of guys are bound to come back. And so it's kind of exciting to know that we could hit some sort of a second wind here as far as health goes going into the stretch of the season. So the names are as follows: Ben Cleveland, Dalen Hayes, Derek Wolfe, Nick Boyle, Chris Westry, and Sammy Watkins. I mean, we got how many? That's 6 guys that we feel pretty confident. Some right after the bye, some, maybe a few weeks following that are going to be back this year in time for the home stretch when the games are, of course, of highest magnitude and pressure. So that's the list thus far. Now, Glenn, I want to ask you based on, you've been hitting the pavement, connecting with the sources out there. What are you hearing as far as likelihood of these guys coming back? Who do you feel has the highest likelihood of coming back and when?
Okay, so I look at this list and I think there are 3 guys that I expect have a good chance of showing up and playing against the Vikings when the Ravens return from their bye week. The first of which is wide receiver Sammy Watkins. He left with a hamstring injury a few games ago, or 2 games ago. And he's been nursing that hamstring injury. I think this bye week gives him the rest he needs. And I think he'll be back out there ready to go when the Vikings games comes along. And if at the very worst, the following game, if he can't make it back for that. Then a big one. Haven't seen him all year. Some of these guys we've seen, some of these guys we have yet to see, and that guy is Derek Wolfe, the big fellow, one of the monstars in the middle of our defense, has yet to suit up this year. We know how impactful he was last year, especially in the absence of some of those other guys in the inside. Yeah. He really certainly held his own. Yeah, he absolutely held his own, and so I'm excited to see him. I expect him to be back. He was at practice today. I think he practices this week, he practices next week, and he's ready to go. But at the worst, the following game, if they just want to be really cautious with him. And then the final guy, he's been practicing a little while. He was activated last week off of the IR, and that's Nick Boyle, tight end Nick Boyle, who had a pretty devastating leg injury last year where I think his hamstring ripped off the bone. He also messed up his knee. He had a bunch of issues. He's working his way back, still has a knee brace, but nonetheless back at practice and hoping to get back out there against the Minnesota Vikings. So those are the 3 right now. And then, of course, Ben Cleveland, Dalen Hayes, and Chris Westry, I think will return. Just don't expect them to quite make it back for that Viking game. But Jimmy, when you look at this list, it looks like there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3. There's 3 on each side. There's 3 on the offense. There's 3 on defense. So which of these guys, and you can pick one offense and one defense if you'd like, who do you see making the biggest impact on the field as well as in the win-loss column?
Yeah, so I'm gonna take some easy ones here. I think offensively, Nick Boyle. I think defensively, Derek Wolfe. I'll start with Nick Boyle simply because we've talked about Lamar Jackson being the entire run game thus far. We've also talked about the fact that, we got not our first choice at left tackle while Alejandro Villanueva is holding his own. Like, we've talked about, he's not our first choice.
Right.
On the right side, I mean, at this point, we might as well put Nick Boyle there. If we're being honest, because, Tyree Phillips is not our first or second choice. Obviously, Macari went down with the ankles. So while we're struggling on the bookends, that's not helping the run game. I think that Nick Boyle.
I lost you. You're muted.
You got
there
me?
We go. There we go. Now we got you.
Nope.
I hear you.
I can't hear you.
Oh, that's great. Well, I can hear you just fine. But I think what you were getting into is Nick Boyle is certainly going to make a big difference in this run game. I think Nick Boyle is maybe the best blocking tight end in all of football, and what he does that makes him so special. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, 100% agree with you. I think Nick Boyle is going to make a huge difference. This is a guy who is darn near like having an extra tackle out there. That's how good he is. But he's got tight end feet in that he can not just block a defensive end or an outside linebacker who's looking to sack Lamar Jackson, but he can also, with his mobility, get out there, block a linebacker at the next level, and block a safety at the third level. I mean, this is a guy who has the athleticism and the flexibility to block pretty much any guy at any position. Whereas some of these big offensive linemen, if they get their mitts on a safety or a corner, can certainly flatten him. But a lot of times those smaller guys use their quickness and agility to outmaneuver one of the big offensive linemen, and they oftentimes go after a guy and end up catching air and just falling flat on their bellies. So what Nick Boyle does is similar to when you have him and you have Pat Ricard. That's like having two additional linemen on the field at all times. And there's no doubt that not only does it improve the run game, but it allows Greg Roman to call a bigger variety of run plays that he may not even be using right now. There's probably a portion of his playbook that he's not even using because he doesn't have a guy like Nick Boyle who can go out and execute what he needs executed in order to operate that specific play. I think you're 100% right about Nick Boyle. I think he adds so much to the run game, but let's also not forget that he's got great hands. Yeah, he doesn't have vertical speed. There's no doubt about it, but he's got he's got incredible hands. And if you're a DB and you're trying to tackle this guy after he's caught a ball in the flat, he's looking to take your head off. And if you go too low because you're anticipating him dropping the shoulder, he'll jump over you. He's done it his entire career. So this guy is an asset that I don't think a lot of the national, pundits and fans of other teams realize just how valuable having a guy like Nick Boyle is to this particular offense.
Yep, 100%. And then when, speaking to Derek Wolfe, I think what Derek Wolfe does for this team is a few things. He adds quality starter level depth to help a guy like Brandon Williams. So then that rotation, instead of it just being, the top three being Metabike, Williams, and Campbell, then you have really.
I lost you again. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Oh my gosh, now you're robotic.
You're back.
It's you. So then it really becomes Calais Campbell, Metabike, Wolfe, and Brandon Williams. So what it does is it allows those guys to rotate along with the rotational pieces, Jelly and a few other names that are out there. But it brings depth. It also allows these guys to come in fresher. And look, Glenn said it before. His most disappointing player this year is Brandon Williams. So let's get Derek Wolfe in there, who has more of a pass rushing element to his game, to see what he can do. So I think he'll be a bit of a flash in the pan. I think he'll be a guy that can add depth and allow Wink to get more creative. And then I think he can add to the pass rush. We know that pass rush is valuable. Pass rush up the middle is probably the most valuable when you can collapse the pocket and not give a quarterback an opportunity to step into his throws. Mm-hmm. And also, very difficult to produce in that usually those guys up front are not masters of the pass rush. Right. So that's my defensive guy. Do you agree, disagree? How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's hard to disagree with either of those guys. I think those two.
I'm really smart, so I just figured.
Yeah, I mean, you're a real genius, and I think that you called it right there. But
I took the easy ones, let's be honest.
But I want to, yeah, exactly. But I want to talk about what these other guys can bring, because I think all these guys are going to play a huge, huge role if the Ravens are going to want to, get to where they want to go. But before we get into those, I want to just let the fans know that this show is brought to you by Symbol.
That's right.
And Symbol is an incredibly unique way to look at sports betting and gambling, and that it's like combining the stock market with your favorite sports team. And this Symbol covers not just the Ravens in the NFL, but all of the major sports as well as college football. And it's a unique way of looking at things. If you're worried about, man, am I investing my money correctly? Am I, you can put your money here, you can put your money there. You may want to get involved with stocks, but you say, I don't know what the hell. I don't know the first thing about stocks. Well, do you know sports? Because then you can certainly use your sports knowledge to fill your pockets with cash if you use Symbol. And if you use promo code 410, you'll get an instant $10 added to your account. And it's just it's such a refreshing, different way of looking at things. You buy into a team's stock, and you're not just buying for wins and losses. While they do help, you're also buying for other reasons. If they have a young superstar, if they're looking at going into a new market, anything that they would do to raise the stock of their team benefits you as a stock owner in their franchise. So look into Symbol. That's Symbol. Use promo code 410 to make a couple of dollars and really just grow your long-term wealth, because it's a short-term, but it's also it's a long-term way of looking at sports gambling. So
just saying, Glenn, speaking of Symbol, in our portfolio, you gave me a little bit of a hard time for wanting to go after the Raiders. A little bit of a hard time.
No, I didn't. I supported you.
You supported me, but it took a little bit of convincing.
Well, I mean, I took it more of a short sale, but I tell you what, this coach they got in he's looking better than Gruden.
Yeah, and I'll also tell you what, we're up $4.90 per share for the Raiders, bought at 40, and now it's at 44.93. So,
and didn't we also buy in the Colts?
No, we did not buy the Colts. We bought the Ravens, of course.
Of course.
We bought the Bengals, we bought the Cowboys, and we bought the Raiders.
All of those teams have yet to lose except for the Ravens. Have yet to lose outside of the Ravens. So let's
just say our portfolio is doing pretty well right now.
Yeah, so jump on board the Symbol. Look, you don't want to be the last to the party. You don't want to be the last to the cool band, right? You want to be on first. So get on there first. But let's get into this other group of players who are looking to come back and what the impact they could make.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at Dalen Hayes right now, and I can't wait for this guy to get back. I understand that he was a late round pick, and he's not, Odafe Owe, who was expected to help day one. He certainly has had his moments where he's done that. But the pass rush is still not getting it done from a four-man rush standpoint, and they're not getting it done in a consistent basis. I mean, we've had games where we've had a really nice pass rush, and then we've had other games where it's been relatively non-existent. So I need to see some more depth, and I think while we love Pernell McPhee, I think that his value is in first and second down as a run defender, and I don't know how much he brings really as a pass rusher. Dalen Hayes from day one was impressive as a pass rusher, not just in camp, not just in the preseason, but in the brief time he spent on the field in the regular season. The guy was making plays. He was getting around that edge. He was bending his waist, getting below the tackle's reach, and he was getting to the quarterback. So I'm excited to see what this guy can bring once he returns to the field, because they need some speed. They need some youth to that room. And I think they need depth. I mean, I think the depth helps everyone get better. It helps a guy who's already been playing get way better because he's not sucking wind and exhausted when these teams run tempo against the Ravens defense. He's able to go to the sideline, catch his breath because Dalen's coming in and doing his thing. So I think he could bring a lot to this team.
I agree as well. And one name that we have not brought up that started the season well, of course. I mean, we kind of brought him up, but not in this context. Sammy Watkins is a name that we brought up at the beginning. But I also think that while the most impactful offensive player we consider to be Nick Boyle, Sammy Watkins was playing well, had some big plays in big moments, big third down plays, things of that nature, was looking a little, and I say this I'm a little nervous about saying this, but we're looking a little bit like some sort of rendition of like the Anquan Bolden in the past, right? Like the big play guy that Lamar can throw it up to and he can go get it. I'm not saying he's Anquan Bolden, folks, but like, you know, that role, that type of player is my point. And look, when he comes back, the trio of Sammy Watkins, Rashad Bateman, and Hollywood Brown, can we be upset anymore about who we have a wide receiver? I don't think so, because Rashad is showing out. It's definitely not too big for him. He's going to keep getting better every week. Obviously, Marquise is doing his thing. And we know what Sammy Watkins is as long as he can stay healthy. So I think he will also make a big impact on this offensive explosiveness, the offensive sustainability, the ability to sustain drives. You talked about their third down percentage and wanting to improve that. I think Sammy Watkins will do a lot to do that. So I think Sammy Watkins is another name that, while Rashad is here and people are like kind of relieved that Sammy at least made it healthy enough to get Rashad on the field.
Yeah.
I still don't think we should downgrade his impact, even with Rashad Bateman here, a successful vet who's been there and who produced all camp, produced all beginning of the season. And I'm looking forward to Sammy Watkins coming back.
Yeah, 100% agree. If fans remember, he was a lot of times the trusted guy on third down.
Yep.
So Lamar trusts him, the coaching staff trusts him, so obviously we should as well. But then the other guys, I think Chris Westry could be a huge addition if he's able to return shortly after the bye week. That's a 6'4" corner, Jimbo, who can play on the outside. And what that can do is it just allows Marlon Humphrey to become the more versatile player that he is. Let's let him move around. Let's let him be the stud, which, look, last week's game plan was designed for him to be the stud, and he came up short. I doubt he's going to allow that to happen again. I have a lot of faith in Marlon Humphrey. I know his competitive nature is if not, the top in the league. You're certainly going to be hard-pressed to find a guy who's more competitive. You might be able to find a guy who's as competitive, but not more competitive than Marlon Humphrey. And I think Chris Westry coming back, he obviously had I don't know if he had a breakout, camp in preseason. This guy was set to play a big, big role, especially after the injury to Marcus Peters. And then he gets banged up and he's forced out. So watch Chris Westry and the impact he could make, helping spell Averett, helping to spell, keeps Jimmy Smith from being overextended and overused to where he gets banged up. It just, we keep talking depth, and this is another guy who comes and he brings quality depth. We might not have to have 6 safeties up for every game, because now we actually have some corners that can play rather than, squeezing these safeties into play, nickel and all that stuff. So Chris Westry, I think, will make a big difference as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, I know that people consider an afterthought, but he was also a special teams guy. Just based on the fact, like you said, he's so unique physically that he can help with some of these matchups and give these guys allow for depth. I think Wink needs a lot of depth based on the pressure that he puts on his corners, having to play man coverage and the entire defense in general. But yeah, look, we got reinforcements on the way. Mm-hmm. The Saints are about to come marching in the form of the Ravens reserves. That was my favorite song to play on the trombone in 4th grade, by the way. Bam! That was the best, man. Let me tell you what. So,
never got past the recorder.
Were you still playing Hot Cross Buns?
That's right. You know it.
Dude. That's ridiculous. Oh, my goodness. That's awesome. Let us know what your guys' thoughts are. We didn't mention Ben Cleveland. Will he have a bigger impact than we're anticipating? What about the names that we gave? Do you agree with us, disagree with us? Give us all your insight down in the comments below. Like I said before, we'll be looking forward to interacting with you guys, and we'll talk to you guys soon.